The dental marketing landscape is constantly evolving. If you wonder how your practice can do a better job of attracting new patients online, join dental SEO expert Ross Dunn and various guests for a regular exploration of the dental marketing services proven to attract new patients. Take a break and join your host, Ross Dunn, for a lively discussion on Dental Web Marketing 101.
Hello and welcome to the Dental Web Marketing 101 podcast, show number 2 by First.Dentist. My name is Ross Dunn and I'm the Director of SEO and co-founder of First.Dentist. I'm joined by our Vice President of Marketing, Andy Bernhart.
Hi.
How you doing today, bud?
I'm doing great. Looking forward to this podcast.
Yeah. Well, today is Dental Web Marketing 101, episode 2, how to establish local rankings for your dental practice, part 2. So yes, part 2. We cut off, what we got to last time was number 1, a physical location. These are these are key steps to building a successful local online presence. Number 2 is a unique phone number. Number 3 is claim your Google My Business listing. Number 4 is reviews. So now let's get into number 5. Let's just jump right in. It's your website. 61% of mobile searchers are more likely to contact a local business if they have a mobile-friendly site, never mind a website. So you want to make sure that you have the website that is perfectly mobile-friendly and that you have answered many of the questions that people often ask when they're looking at your business and considering it. So this is really Andy's department. He loves this stuff. He's principal on managing a lot of the websites we put out there at First.Dentist. So Andy, take it away.
Yeah, it's, that statistic, it really says a lot. And, I think a lot of that has to do with, not only is it 61% of mobile searchers, we're seeing such a dramatic increase in mobile website usage as well too, right? So when we take a look at our statistics on some of our customers' analytics, it's amazing. We're seeing 60 to 80% mobile visits, right? And a few years ago, it's one of the things that we did at First.Dentist was we started looking at our websites when we designed them from a mobile user experience. And that's even different than just having a mobile friendly website, right? Like one of the things that we want to do at First.Dentist is make sure that user experience or, customer experience is one where they can find the information easily, where the mobile layout really presents all of that information very simply and very easily. At the top, we've got a click to call, which is a special little bit of code and the phone number so that people can just immediately, call to book an appointment, which is something that's really important to customers these days, right? They don't want to go searching through a poorly designed website trying to find a phone number, right? So, that kind of thing's important, right? And then one of the things that we're doing right now is when we're designing websites, oftentimes we use video headers on desktop because they look great and it's a fantastic introduction immediately to a practice. But you can't do things like that on mobile websites because you don't want videos auto playing so that people use up all their bandwidth or stuff starts playing automatically. So we use things like images and then you can click to see a video, right?
Exactly. So, we're definitely going to have another entire show on what it takes to do a website. I mean, multiple shows probably. But definitely it's important to have this initial chat. Now, one thing before you jump forward too is websites that already rank well in organic rankings typically do better in local. So technically, you don't actually need a website to get a ranking in Google My Business. It's designed to be your kind of presence. Google would love that, wouldn't they? You're pretty much putting all their eggs in their basket. But by having a website, you've definitely established something not only that you own, but also something that adds more credibility and authority to your online presence, which again helps with Google My Business. So I wanted to sort of inject that because I know some who may know a little more about this may be wondering why we're mentioning a website, but it is important. So please start with that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, I think we try to do at First.Dentist with our marketing and with our websites is we try to look at the entire journey that a new patient takes to finding a dental practice, right? And, dental and medical can sometimes be a little bit commoditized, right? So, we want to make sure that a practice, really is, authentically presenting who they are, everywhere from Google My Business all the way down to the website, right? And it does make a difference when people can, check out a website that, looks good, showcases the practice, their Google My Business has up-to-date pictures and hours and all those types of things, right? So, that's, really one of our goals. And I think one of the advantages of, a company like First.Dentist is that we have a very deep understanding of search, how users do that search, the things that they see along the way when they're doing that research, trying to find and choose a practice, right? So,
yeah, and if you want to see an example, again, we're here to educate, not just advertise by any stretch of the imagination. So please understand that. But if you want to see an example of what Andy's talking about, a great calling card we use, we are proud of it because it does do a fantastic job for the client, is victoriadentist.com. Go check it out, victoriadentist.com. Fantastic place. The website's really been designed with many of these principles in mind, and it does very well. So just in case you want to see a live example. Another thing about a website, of course, is the optimization of it. You want to ensure that when Google goes to the website, it is easily determined what each page is about and the overall context of the site. This is done in many ways, but a few to list off, and again, we'll have other shows on this, is ensuring that the top of the page is clear. Not having a single page website, something that we see often.
A lot.
Yeah, and not using content that's being repurposed elsewhere. You want to have unique content. You need to have some a very personal touch to the website, showing that you are a different breed. Your practice is a place that people want to go to because it isn't just run of the mill. It's offering the best service possible. It's a truly awesome experience. And, by having content that's being used elsewhere, stock photography that's being used elsewhere, stock video that's being used elsewhere, that'd be pretty horrible, would not be a good thing. So, and this is all part and parcel to helping you with SEO as well. Google does not like to see the same content in other places. It just devalues it entirely. And it wants to see the various services you're provided in a very clear manner. So again, if you had it on a single page, it's very difficult for that to happen. You want separate sections or separate pages of your website, at the very least, talking about each of your particular services that you want your patients or potential patients to know about. What would be the most, obviously, other than checkups and hygiene, what would some of the bigger examples be there, Andy, for those services?
Well, it varies from dental practice to dental practice, right? And that is actually an opportunity for a lot of practices as well, too. One of the things that we oftentimes do with our clients is if they want to, say, rank for something like dental implants, or they've got a new laser in their practice or something like that. What we try to do is we try to flesh that content out for them and sort of build a little bit more of an authoritative presence around that, trying to answer questions, create really good content. So all dental practices have, different services that they like to focus on. And sometimes it's dental implants, sometimes it's cosmetic dentistry. And, in specialist fields, sometimes it's Invisalign, say, for orthodontists or something like that. So.
Yeah, and one of the things we see a lot of are dentists just wanting to publish the latest PDF they've received from the manufacturer, sort of an example of everything they do for, say, Invisalign. Mm-hmm. It's not a good idea. I mean, yeah, sure, have it downloadable, but the content of the page has to be unique. It has to have proper content that's being written by an editor and again, unique to your website.
And it is important, and it is valuable to patients as well too, right? I was just talking with a friend who had a root canal, and one of the things they said was that their dentist had really great information about root canals on their website that answered all of their questions, right? So And that's the kind of thing that Google does actually understand, is that there's a lot of great information about some type of procedure, or the questions are answered and that type of stuff. So Google has ways of understanding that content and how user friendly it is on people's sites. So
Yeah.
it's worth putting the effort into creating good content that's unique and that answers your patient's questions, because ultimately that's one of the things your website can do for your practice as well, is it can help the service your customers, right? So people aren't calling the front office and asking these questions, right? They can say, well, yes, go to the website, there's a really great list of every question that somebody's had about this.
They still will, but at least a percentage won't, maybe.
Yeah, but it is a way of absolutely reducing some of that, some of those questions that people have, right, that you have to spend time answering. So
even doing that in video, just another level up. It's all about showing how much you care, and your website can do a great deal of that. So that being the website, one other thing, I guess it's a bit of a rabbit hole. This whole website thing could be, again, more than one show. Picking your domain is one thing I want to mention before we kick off here. It is generally a good idea that you pick something that people can remember, that isn't too long and has little chance of being misspelled. I know it's a lot to do. Worst comes to worst, though, just use your business name. Okay. Don't get too fancy about it. There are instances where we've got clients who have very different names of their domain versus their business, and it is a little hard to connect the dots to remember that. Whereas a client or a prospect is likely to remember your business name and type that in. So the very least, buy that if you're going to use a different domain. So you've got both domains pointing to the same place. Do not create separate websites for each domain. Have one website, have both domains pointing to it. Okay, very important. Okay, the next one, number 6, is citations. So what the heck is a citation, right? When I first heard about it quite a long time ago now, I had to look it up and get a better grasp of it. Essentially, it's mentions of your business online. This can be mentions in the form of a link, it can be mentions in the form of your business name and address or service area. Google's gotten pretty brilliant about picking up on this stuff. So if you, for example, I'll give you a couple examples for each one here. So if you were to be mentioned in the local newspaper and they didn't put a link to your business, but that newspaper had a digital format, Google indexes it, they see your business name, they see that this newspaper's from your local area, it's got excellent local signals. It's a way of Google being sure that you do exist, that your business has some authority in your area, and that's going to be a check mark. Yeah, this is a kind of business that may deserve to get more visibility. And that's the key here. There are a lot of potential dentists in your area, a lot of competitors. So how do you stand out? Well, citations is a part of it. It's a way of, again, proving to Google that you are who you are, that you deserve to get the additional visibility versus your competitors. Other citations may be local, like Chamber of Commerce, mentioning your business, your address, and a link to your website. That's kind of the ideal setup. Links are fantastic, always have been, likely always will be for a business when they're authentic. They come from highly qualified resources like Chambers, places where they qualify any link before they ever put it on their website, and Google knows it. It's not just a run-of-the-mill place you can add your link and move on. They verify it. Better Business Bureau. Anything along those lines. Your local dental association, if it lists the different dentists that are part of it, if you have yours there, that's fantastic. So again, it can be just a mention of your business. It could be mention your business with address. It could also be a mention of business with your URL. All these things are great. URL being, again, your domain. Other citations that we do, sort of as a connection to that, is ensuring that your business name, address, and phone number, we call that the NAP, the name, address, and phone number, are showing up on relevant directories, relevant yellow page sites. Internet yellow pages, IYPs we call them. So you want to be showing on these different places, and there are so many. We talked about some of the aggregators in the last show. Well, in this case, it doesn't have to be an aggregator like the ones that Andy had mentioned before, like Infogroup and such, but they can be more like top lists of service providers in your local area. Best service, like best dentists, usually there's a best of website. There's all these different places. Google has to have some certainty of the quality. So don't expect a site that just came out of nowhere to be having any kind of benefit for you if you get a link on it or anything. But established websites, established directories, get your name in there. We want to make sure that's there. So those are citations. They add up to sort of a vote of confidence for your business, of authenticity, ensuring that your business does exist. Very important, because there's lots of fly-by-night businesses out there. Not so many in the dental realm.
And spammers too.
And spammers, yes.
Yeah.
You don't want to be you don't even want to appear like one of those. So the more signals you have out there, each of these things are signals, the better off you'll be.
Yeah. And one of the statistics that I'd seen was that a lot of top ranked local websites have between about 80 and 100 different citations to their domain, and also the name, address, phone number, sort of thing. But I think the experience that I've had doing a lot of link research and looking at citations at local dental practices is they usually have somewhere between about 10 and 20 high quality citations, and those are from very trusted sources, everything from Yelp to Yellow Pages to Facebook white pages, those types of things. And then they usually have anywhere between about 20 and 40 medium quality ones. So those are the things that we look at, and that we have a local specialist, Rose, who we should probably get her to chime in on something at some point. But yeah, that's a very important part of our job, is double checking every dental practice's citations for consistency. And one of the things that I think is important to mention too is that a lot of dental practices, they don't think about these things. They don't manage these things. And, we see it across all kinds of small businesses too, right? That maybe they've changed their name, or they've been sold, or they've changed their location, or they've changed their phone number, or, somebody, registered all these things with their cell phone or something like that. And, they're a mess. And, we do see really good improvements to people's rankings after we do clean those things up, right? So
yeah, it's when the local algorithms were fairly new, citations had more impact because it was fairly infantile, I guess, that lack of a better word. The systems were very basic. They have lost a little of their benefit now, but they're still by far important to do. And why not? They're not that difficult. It's time consuming, yes, and that's why we have someone that helps to do that. But it does make good sense for Google to care if your name, address, and phone number are consistent everywhere. If they're not, again, it's another indicator that, is this business really there? And is this business something worthy of showing up? They want to be confident, especially when there are so many competitors.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess, one of the things I was trying to say there was that, if a practice has had something like that, where their phone numbers changed, or their address has changed, or their business, right? That's kind of where we do see that, benefiting practices more, is when, one of those situations has happened and there's all kinds of ridiculously different information across the web, right? So yeah, in those kind of cases, it is very important to clean up. So.
Yeah, and when you change business locations, a lot of work.
Yeah, it really is. So,
and another thing I should mention too is when it comes to managing these citations, in some cases they're on directories that begin to want to emulate Google My Business, I guess is the way you put it. So they start adding features. A feature may be to be able to add your photos. Next one is to add your logo. Update your hours regularly. There's a number of different things it could be. Answer user questions. Well, if you don't keep up to date on these, it can also be another indicator. Not a big one, but one of the things we pride ourselves on is ensuring that we keep on top of that. And I think that you should do that as well. If you've got a practice and you have someone helping you, ensure that they're monitoring these particularly new features that some of these places are doing. Now, some of them may charge you. I wouldn't bother doing that. Don't bother. Don't pay for each a citation to increase the amount of data you're including, unless there's some very good reason to know that it's going to be worthwhile.
Here's a good reason, though. If you're a new practice, I do think it is worth submitting to some of the top level data aggregators and paying for that one, right? Because then you get everything consistent right from the start across.
And I don't mean aggregators. I mean individual directories. If they decide to add more features to your listing, you can pay this much more. Don't bother. But if it's free and other dentists are going to do it, why not take advantage of it? Go for it. And again, it's just another signal that you're there and you care. Okay, next one is very similar to this. It's links. Now, we've kind of touched a bit on that with citations, but links are a bit of a different animal in that you can get them from not only newspapers and other fairly authoritative locations, but you can also get them from articles, people interviewing you. I don't consider these citations simply because they're not so writ. You can't just go through and just find them and you've got a list of them you always go to. In this case, if you get interviewed because you've got a particularly new and very interesting, laser or some sort of cosmetic surgery or some option that for cosmetic dentistry that is worthy of being the news, well, you get links from that. That's very beneficial. You can also get links from people who are interviewing dentists in your area. It's difficult because dentistry is one of those things that there are so many people around. How do you sort of stand out? Did any come to your mind for you, Andy, that have stood out over the last while when it comes to links?
Well, it's again, when, I've done a little bit of research into looking at how many links dental practices that rank well have, right? And depending on how competitive your area is, right? We're looking, dental practices rank between, again, about 30 and 80 good quality links, right? Good and medium quality links. And there's a variety of places to get those links, like you said. And I think local newspapers that, may cover things, do interviews, cover, interesting people in the community, those kind of things. Those are always useful, and they're good. It's a good local signal too from a high authority site, right? So that's valuable.
What I was thinking, and I cut you off there, but I remember what it was that I was driving at there, and it was one of the things we recommend. We actually send out a document to clients, and it mentions the types of links they want to be building. And I wrote that in. I'm an idiot for not remembering that right off the bat. Oh dear. Okay. Is, sponsor your local baseball team.
Yeah.
Sponsor a initiative at your local charity, maybe your church. All these different places often have sponsorship pages. Yeah. They have a thank you article or a thank you press release. And if they don't, you can always recommend it. There is no reason whatsoever for you not to. You're helping them. If they can help you, wonderful. They're probably delighted to, as long as it doesn't cost them a great deal of money or time. And you can make that also easy for them as well. Heck, if it involves a press release, you can pay for it. Just who cares? It's going to serve you, right?
Yeah.
A lot of community links are important, and the one that we can sort of see shared between citations and that as well are things like Chamber of Commerce, Better Business Bureau, but also Buy Local. We have that particular initiative where we are. There's a stickers people put on their windows, Buy Local, and it's actually an initiative where if you do sign up, you are part of a directory. And it works. It works quite well from a local signals perspective. I've seen that.
Yeah.
So links are
other
great.
Local businesses too. People that you're friends with, people who, next door, all those types of things, right? There's always opportunities to get links from, local businesses too. So I think that's a valuable one, right? And, one of the things you can do too is you can provide links to, some of your local businesses and your friends as well too, right?
Okay. Another thing is you don't necessarily have to only have local ones. If you decide to be, and this would be phenomenal, but it does take a special kind of person with a little bit of time. That's the tricky part, because I know most dentists don't have that kind of time, is to be a bit of a content generator. Create video. If you're going to a local or going to a conference, a dental conference, do some video of yourself. Have someone take some video of you, just discussing what you've seen, the interesting things, and how they might affect your patients, the things that you may be looking into further. Maybe there's certain techniques there that you saw that were interesting, but you're not sure there's enough interest from patients. Ask them. Get that kind of feedback. Get that kind of you can use your social media to post this. Wow. That kind of transparency would be pretty phenomenal. And again, it takes a certain kind of person to do that. The ones that do really stand out. And that's the trick, standing out. It's not easy to do.
Yeah.
I'd
say we live in a very modern, digital age where people are getting a lot of their information, from places like Facebook, from places online. And, if you can consider how you can, just spend a little bit of time, crafting that personality, for yourself, for your practice, writing, it's one of the things that can, pay really, really big dividends, right? And, it is a little bit of time, but, one of the things that we try to do at First.Dentist is we try to write regularly, right? We try to write authoritative blog posts and then get those out. And it's just one of those things that, I have to decide to do, every morning, write a little bit, and then, all these things eventually come together. And for practices that really want to get, known online, get known in their community, it's a really good idea to try to figure out how to build that into your kind of day to day. So,
yeah, and it's logical too.
Yeah.
If someone's looking at going to a dentist in a specific area and they look at all the options, well, they're going to look for the one that stands out. Because to many who don't perhaps know better or know what to look for, dentists all seem the same. There's a particular location, sure, that's convenience. Absolutely, that's always going to be important. But if one in particular seems to be more extroverted, more in touch with its patients, with great reviews, we talked about that earlier, that's all these things are going to connect, and it's going to make you more appealing. And generally, and this is a generality, but generally the newer businesses that really want that and they're hungry for the patients are the ones who are going to take those leaps, and they're going to do better. Yeah. And the old guard won't be doing that. They have no interest in it. They're close to retirement, perhaps.
Full practice already.
Yeah, they're not going to. Now they may start losing out, and if you're listening, you're one of them as well. You can't sit in your laurels. All this stuff is changing quickly, and there are a lot of very hungry dentists out there that are going to work hard.
Yeah, and we see it time and time again, right? With, because Ross's sister company, Stepforth, works with, like legal practices, those types of things, right? And, we see new law practices open up and they decide to make digital a priority and they put out lots of content. And next thing you know, they're outranking practices that have been in, here for 100 years or something like that.
And
right?
buying them out.
Yeah. Right. So wow. It's a pretty seismic shift. Right. And, and the other thing too, is that a lot of dentists, they aren't doing these things and they're not thinking about these things. Right. But, there are some examples of, some young doctors, who have new practices and they're, really making great strides just by committing a little bit of time to creating that content and working on it and getting it out there. So it can pay huge dividends. So,
great.
Yeah, that content is good. So the only other thing I would mention here too, that I don't think we've touched on, Ross, is industry links. So links from, your university, from certification boards, industry, distributors, all those kind of things. They're valuable and important as well too. And the other thing too is if you do publish some good content and you can get it into dental related media, those are also very valuable links as well too. So, and just doing interviews with dental associations or dental related media, all those things, we would love to see our practices get links back from some of these big sites that, cover the dental industry in general. So
absolutely,
that's a valuable one too.
All right. So that was links number 8. And the last one here is regular Google My Business activity. I kind of touched on it a little bit in the last episode, but there is a bit to this. Now, Google My Business is changing so often, it's a bit overwhelming even for experts like us, like who are working with it all the time. For example, there's a section called Google Posts where you can post everything from upcoming events, like say, it's charities and such. We're sponsoring this charity, come on out. It's at our office, you get to meet them. Maybe it's a food drive, whatever it is. Add that there. It stays up for 7 days. Then it scales off. And that's just it. It will disappear. You have to put it up there. If it's an event that actually has a date, and I should actually preface that with the last one, it does have a set time. So if you say that on the 15th of February, it's going to be happening, then it will stay up there until that date. But there are some ifs, ands, or buts about that I can't recall right now because, frankly, there's too many things to remember. We have our notes for that. But it is important to use Google Posts. We're seeing a bit of an uptick from it. It does tend to show up in search results under your listings. And again, we see this occasionally in the wild. That's what we call it when we see it online, but it doesn't always happen. You'll see the Google My Business post that's relevant popping up below your business name in the local results. So keep that in mind. It does show up. And Google likes to see that. You're spending time on their platform. It doesn't make them happier, right? You're logging in. They want you to check your hours, update them. There's a holiday coming up, update them. Make sure that there's something stating what your hours are on the next holiday.
Yep. And we
adding
do
images.
Hear from dental practices when those hours are wrong. So,
yes,
because some patients will be, oh well, I saw you were open and you weren't. So yeah, it's important, right? And the thing is your Google My Business is really your homepage for your homepage now, right? Like if somebody's doing a search for your practice, first thing they're going to see, right, is your reviews, your pictures. If you posted something cool, right? So. It's a really important part in that new patient journey, right? And also for existing patients too. So,
add images. Do that on a regular basis. It doesn't matter if it's the same area. Like say you've got a board. I've seen this before in a lot of pediatric offices, but it could be in other places. But that would be one of those drawing boards where someone's done some beautiful art, but talking about, I don't know, it could be inspiring phrases, but with a dental spin. Have some fun with it. Sometimes people take photos of their patients with a sign saying, "I'm this age and I am cavity free still," or just have fun and just take photos. And you can post these, with their permission, obviously. But Google likes to see that kind of activity. Another really key part of this is, and it's getting better, but people can suggest changes to your Google My Business post or Google My Business page. And these suggested changes can be uninspired and uninformed. Some of them are just stating that you do not offer this service or you do offer this, but perhaps you don't. And unless you go in there and say no or yes, in many cases, those will go live and you'll start having problems because whatever's posted isn't correct, perhaps. Sometimes, and this is really bad, and this has happened, I've seen it happen twice now, bad actors have gone in there and changed the phone number, even changed the address, and are technically stealing that business. And it's
well,
very
and
possible.
unfortunately, we have been seeing that with citations and things like that too, right? There are quite a few hackers, spammers, vindictive dentists,
Yeah.
those kind of things.
Well,
They
it's
do
amazing
happen,
how
right?
petty people can be. It's just astonishing.
Yeah, it's unethical at best, that's for sure. So
Yeah, definitely. So your Google My Business page is definitely it's your online business card. Yes, your website exists. There will be a link from it, but you want to ensure that your Google My Business page is number one for being updated, and quickly thereafter your website. So don't forget about it. Make sure you are active on it. You will get reminders from Google if you've already signed up and you haven't been on there. Say, what are your hours for this upcoming holiday? Don't ignore those. If you happen to not been on there recently, but you get that, click on it. Go there.
yeah,
They
and
want
bringing
that.
that up, it's go on there regularly. Make it part of your weekly workflow
Mhm.
to check that out. Somebody should have a responsibility every week for checking it, right? And it's one of the things that we do help our clients with is that if there is a major thing that comes up, we notify them, right, or a negative review, those types of things. But yeah, it's all businesses just need to make that part of their workflow, and somebody needs to be assigned and responsible for it. So
Great. Well, there you go. So we had 8 altogether, 8 points here. I'm sure you could argue for many more, including pay-per-click ads, all that sort of thing, but we'll jump into those into other shows. But I'll just recap them here. Number 1, physical location. Number 2, a unique phone number. Number 3, claim your Google My Business listing. Number 4, reviews. Number 5, create a great website. Number 6, citations. Number 7, build links. And number 8, regular Google My Business activity. So if you did all of these and did them as well as we've outlined, and really it's not insurmountable by any stretch, a lot of dental practices are doing this, you will see it very likely see an improvement in rankings very quickly. It's just you're following Google's desires. So why is it not going to work, right? It's just fantastic. But you should keep on top of things too. I mentioned earlier on, monitoring some of the online websites, such as Search Engine Roundtable. It's a great place to go. The localsearchforum.com. It's one I forgot to mention earlier. Fantastic forum. Lots of great tips on there. Cutting edge. It's where people are sort of going, what the hell? What's going on? Why isn't this working? And there's discussions, and sometimes Google makes changes based on those discussions. So it's really interesting stuff in there. Again, only if you want to be on the cutting edge, but sometimes that's what you need to do. All right.
Our blog is a great place to go too. I've written a lot of comprehensive articles on all of these factors. So
I can't dismiss that by any stretch, nor our show or SEO 101. So lots of places to be. All right. Well, on behalf of myself, Ross Dunn, co-founder of First.Dentist, and Andy Bernhart, VP of Marketing, thanks for joining us today. If you have any questions you'd like to share with us, please feel free to email them at info@first.dentist. Thank you for listening, and remember to tune into our next episode where we'll be sharing some more information on how to excel in your dental web marketing.
Thanks for listening, and I hope you have a great week.
You have just listened to another episode of Dental Web Marketing 101 with SEO expert Ross Dunn. We hope you enjoyed the show and gained some insight on how to attract new patients online. To subscribe and access the show notes, please visit dwm101.com. Join us again next week, and until then, keep on smiling.